Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Green Mirror Studios. We are back for a second episode with Emily Nies. She was on the podcast just recently, and she is a performer, actor, dance teacher, singer, musical theatre all rounder, awesome human. And on this episode, we cover topics about her journey living in New York through her years in college, as well as a little bit of a chorus line anniversary that has just happened and her past experiences with the musical and playing the role of Cassie. If you know, you know, such a hard and epic role. She performs in the musical the role. Well, Cassie is a like 6 or 7 minute routine. Like, it's insane the stamina that you need to have to perform such a role. And so she talks us through some of that as an experience, and amongst other topics throughout as well, being a creative and also dealing with the mental health of being in the creative performing arts industry. So I hope that gives you guys a little bit of a rundown of what we cover. And I'm sure there's a lot more also mentioned in the episode that I haven't even mentioned here. But ultimately, I hope you guys enjoy the episode, enjoy the two of us geeking out about having lots of things in common. And yeah, feel free to like and share and comment. The more that you interact with this episode, the better for the algorithm, the further the reach, and the more that people can also be helped through such an episode of feeling like they can relate and that we can all feel a lot less alone on our journey as creatives. So enjoy. We talk about the algorithm and all that, and you think you figured it out. And then you're like, no, I feel the same way because just the other night I made a trending video and it hardly got many views. And then the videos I've made from my authentic self have gotten more views. So I think that's a super interesting point. Yeah, we can just dive right in, I reckon. Are you feeling comfortable?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Whatever,
All right.
wherever you want to
Cool.
start is fine.
Emily, welcome back to the podcast, and I'm so excited to have you back on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's so good. I loved our last episode. We just obviously have a lot in common and like a lot of similar experiences. And I'll even say, like, I've got friends that have approached me recently, and it must be a wavelength that I'm on or we're on, but kind of like attracting soul family in a way. Like, there are definitely lots of people out there that can relate to what we've been through. So I just want to say, like, yeah, thank you for coming on again because these conversations are really important. Um, and they can really help people grow and learn and like just sort of help navigate the tough industry, which is the performing arts world. So yeah,
Yeah.
there we go. Um, we'll start off talking about it's recently been a chorus line's 50th anniversary, which is so wild. But you have a personal like relationship with that show yourself, and I do too. So wild again. One of those synchronicities. But yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about like the anniversary, how it's come up in the theatre world, and sort of the emotions and what you've been going through recently with that?
Yeah, it's wild. I can't believe 50 years it's been since the original. My experience was I did the show with Bjork in college, and I played Cassie in college at Pace University. So that was around like 2016 going into 2017. And I was just reflecting back, so much gratitude. I would say that is the number one word because now that I'm 30, I realize not many college students had that opportunity with her. And I think Pace was actually the very first college that she directed it at. So
Right.
gratitude, just so much gratitude, and also reflecting on that time in my life. You
Yeah.
know, so much has happened since that time. It's been 9 years going on 10. I
Mhm.
was a junior at the time in college, and Um, it's, a lot of painful memories, not with the show, but just with where I was at in my life and also joyous memories. So it's been very interesting reflecting back on that time.
Yeah, well, like, so college, roughly, how old were you?
Oh God, I think I was 21, going on 22.
Yeah, and those are such like formative years as well. Like, we're talking now like we're dinosaurs. We're not, but
We're not. We're not.
I'm turning 34 in a month. So,
Oh
um,
my gosh.
but I'm really glad I can look back at my 20s and know that, I'm not there anymore. And it was such a confusing time being in
Yeah,
our 20s. Like you're an adult, but you've got no guidance. Like it's really weird. You're like a baby adult. So,
yeah, you
um,
absolutely are. I hated my
how,
20s,
yeah.
to be honest.
What was that? Sorry.
No, I just said I hated my 20s. I did. Like looking back, just wrong decisions, distractions, everything. But anyway, that's another discussion.
Yeah, totally. Like I was doing the same thing. Like all my distractions was just trying to find the right partner to settle down with. But it's hindsight's funny because you look back and you're like, thank goodness that never happened. Oh no. And then so you're in your 20s and you played the role of Cassie, yeah?
Yeah.
We'll
Yep.
just we'll explain to people that don't know a chorus line a little bit, kind of what the premise of the show is and like what your role of Cassie was. Do you want to help explain that?
Absolutely. Well, it's a show about dancers auditioning for the ensemble of a Broadway show. And so your the show itself literally is an entire audition process and it's focused on dancers, but um instead of just doing, a typical dance call, the director, Zach, he kind of breaks it down and humanizes the dancers because we are people, we're not just bodies that do crazy jumps and tricks and fun stuff,
Yeah.
we're people. So each character is allowed to show their humanity and express who they are, why they're there. And it's no surprise that it's been going on for 50 years because I think those stories tap into the humanity of not just people who are performers, but of everybody, nurses, doctors, anybody that has a job that wants something in life. But Cassie, oh, it's crazy thinking that I was 21 playing a 32-year-old woman with, relevant experience in the business. But Cassie is, it's, in my opinion, it's one of the hardest roles written in musical theater history.
Hands down. Like I am so like amazed that you were able to play such a hard role because I view it and so many other musical theater people view it in the exact same light. It is such a hard role purely from the dance perspective. Like how long is the number in the show when she's in the famous red dress, like red leotard and things like that? How many minutes are you dancing for?
I really should have this thing memorized, but I'm pretty sure it's at least somewhere around 7 minutes.
Yeah, I thought it was like 6 or 7
Six or
minutes.
seven, something like that.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's
so good. I kind of want to know if I can dance it.
oh,
Like,
it's all about pacing. It's
yeah.
all about pacing. And when you're in your head about it, like when you're thinking about the turn section at the end, when you're thinking about the steps, it makes it so much harder. But when you're in the character and you're thinking about the music and letting that feel you, it feels like you're flying. And Bjork was actually the first person that taught me how to really act through movement. Growing up in competition dance, I was always given the steps,
Hmm.
given the exact counts. It had to be a certain way, fitting within this perfect box, no exceptions.
Yeah.
Um, and we were never taught to use the music. And again,
Mm.
maybe that has changed now, but when I was in comp in mid 2000s, we were never taught anything about the music, at least in my studio. So that was interesting working with her, and it was a liberating experience for me in that way because it was one of those moments in my training where I was like, oh, like I had that moment of click of like, oh, this is what dance is.
Yeah, that's
This is what
amazing.
dance is, you know? And I'll never forget me and my understudy at the time, she had us run our Cassie dance 3 times in a row
Oh
in
God.
rehearsal. Yeah. I mean, we had like breathing time in between, but we had to run it 3 times in a row.
It's
And
the stamina.
I mean, yeah, it was honestly a very good exercise in stamina and in mental strength.
Mm. Yeah,
Mental strength, because a lot of the times your mind is actually stronger than your body. And when you're on stage and you feel like your legs are going to give out, you have to have
you gotta
that
keep
mental.
going.
Yeah. So I learned a lot in that show, in that rehearsal process. And I can honestly say I have never felt more prepared to go on stage after that, ever.
Yeah, I mean that is like a marathon, and like you mentioned pacing. Like I've seen some of the social media clips going around at the moment of the tribute show that was recently put on, and it was essentially a bunch of Broadway professionals, and they did the Cassie number. A whole lot of Cassie representatives who've played the role before came out on stage, and they reconfigured the number to kind of fit everyone on stage and showcase different people. As you know, I'm saying this more for the listener who doesn't know. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, even as a performer myself, I could see those small moments. As we know, the routine is so incredibly difficult, longevity wise. But before there's that final section in the routine where she performs across the stage, she'll do turn, turn, lay out, and then she does that like 4 or 5 times. And
Perfect.
but the moment before it is more like it's slower. She can kind of contain herself. And I could see, because I've rewatched it multiple times, and I went, oh, that's her taking the breath,
Yeah.
getting ready, and then the music ramps up and off she goes for that like final strong finish.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, when I used to dance solos as well, competitions, no one ever taught me how to breathe. Let's just
No,
talk about that for a second.
I agree. Same here.
Yeah,
Same here.
yeah. What happened with your experience with that? Because sometimes you're just holding your breath because you're just trying so hard to focus on the steps, you literally forget to breathe.
Yeah, I mean, my experience was just that. It was, first of all, I was never taught. Second of all, I carried a lot of anxiety anytime I walked into my competition dance studio space. So I wasn't even breathing like when I wasn't dancing, you know. Um, So I think it's just as simple as I was never taught, and I think it literally needs to be taught. I think teachers need to, especially once the whole dance is choreographed and finished, you should be going through, landmarks in the piece. Okay, here's a good moment to breathe, and checking in with the student and saying, does this feel good for you? Does this feel natural for you? Where do you feel like you need to breathe? Because they are the ones dancing the routine, like they need to make that decision. So it's something you kind of have to figure out by yourself if you're an older dancer, but then also with guidance, especially if you're younger.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, it's great advice in auditions because, there are the times you're waiting on the sidelines and you're waiting for the other groups of dancers to do their round, and then your round is called. I really have taken a mental health approach to auditions. So I've started coaching myself that when I'm on the sidelines waiting for my turn, I'm literally doing like no one will know, but like a breath work exercise just to bring my heart rate back down, and like you're controlling the nerves, but also controlling your cardiovascular because normally you're going really hard in an audition. Um, and for some, I know this has happened for me, but like, when your heart rate gets really high through the exercise, it can trigger almost a panic attack feeling in your body if you don't know how to kind of get it under control. Also, you're nervous. There's a lot of things going on. Because, yeah, for me later on after dance, I decided to study yoga teaching. And that was a game changer for me, just on so many different levels. But the breath work side of it was a huge component, um, and made me go, why aren't we taught this as dancers? Like, and so I've kind of for myself married the two together, and it's like really helped me a lot. So I'm passionate about that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's great. It needs to be taught more for sure.
Have you done any kind of holistic health things away from dance? Like, have you done anything like that to help you breathwork, yoga, or anything similar?
Yeah, I actually love doing hot yoga, but not the traditional Bikram or Bikram, however you want to say it. I love core power yoga, which I don't know if that's a thing in Australia.
It
Is it?
is,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's
There's a
all
few
over.
companies around, yeah.
I specifically love the sculpt classes. I
Mm.
love using the weights, and I think it's a great combination for me. I love to sweat, so I do that. Moving back to Minnesota from New York has obviously been huge for me just because there's nature everywhere here, and it's so beautiful in the summer. So many lakes. This is called the land of 10,000 lakes. It literally has 10,000 lakes.
It
So I
sounds
love
beautiful there, yeah.
is so beautiful. In the summer, in the winter, not so much.
You guys
Lots
get snow
of
in the winter?
yes.
Okay.
Lots of snow. Temperatures can reach like -20s.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, spending time in nature and I think just like regulating my nervous system in general, going to therapy and being aware, having awareness, I think is key. Like awareness when those thoughts start to pop up and thinking, okay, what was the trigger? What made me think that thought? Where is it coming from? Is it my own voice? Is it somebody else's voice from my past that's just been an echo? So awareness has been everything for me, but also sometimes I'm realizing when you are more aware, it can actually be worse. Because then it's like you're constantly discovering more things that do trigger you, so you have to be really good at coaching yourself when you aren't always having someone around you to help you like a therapist. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I totally relate to that. Like for me, there was a period in my life I really, really went deep with therapy and self-work and journaling. I'm probably talking a good like 5 to 7 years of just, really focusing on that. And it was really heavy at the time, but really effective, because the self-awareness thing, understanding how you grew up, your family systems, family dynamics, like how you interpreted all these different things. Um, but like coming out the other side, I realized I needed to, like, I did all that hard work and it was effective, but it did start to turn into like this never-ending rabbit hole. So like I realized I was becoming more disconnected from my body and living from my head a lot, which we do when we have anxiety and stuff. But yeah, it's so effective to get into your body and get into nature. So I started walking a lot because of we lived through the pandemic, we know what happened, but yeah, lots of outdoor walking and then cycling and then um, learning how to kind of integrate back into the world and live your life from your first person point of view instead of like constantly being in a self-reflective state. I know for some people, journaling can feel really like it's too intense and too immersive. And they've got to do other things like go to the gym or something like that. But yeah, I think it's a really good idea to dabble with a lot of different tools like that. And you've got your own tool bag to turn to when it comes to feeling triggered or overwhelmed, or that way you'll know just in general, like what to turn to is going to benefit you during those times. Like for me, sometimes as well, it's just like acknowledging I haven't really had a hug in a long time, or physical touch, or just seeing a family member, you don't need to like explain yourself. So connection is super important, I think, as well.
Absolutely. And it's so important to do this work, but you can also become addicted to doing the work. So there comes a point where you have to be like, okay, at what point can I actually embody this work that I've been doing? Embodiment of it. Because in my 20s, I realized obviously my nervous system was far from regulated, right? So I was walking into these auditions totally in a flight or fight state. And I think sometimes that energy was reading across from the other side of the table. And so obviously it's a lot harder living in New York. And maybe that we can segue into that. I know you wanted to
Oh,
hear
please
about New
do. I'm
York.
so excited to talk about New York.
But
Everyone on the
it,
podcast knows, like, I want to live there and be in a Broadway show. So let's put that out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so
in New York especially,
yeah.
because it's you're surrounded by chaos. And for somebody who is very empathic like myself, that is hard to not pick up on that energy, especially when you're in a holding room at 8 a.m. with 200 other women, it really is a lot. And so that's why the healing is important because how you show up in real life translates into the room.
So what was your journey to get to New York, and why did you move there, and like how long were you there?
Wow. Well, I just like any other high school senior, I was like, well, I have to go to college. At the time, that was just kind of what you did. Now people are getting more creative, which is great. But I was like, okay, college. So I did the classic, audition. I went to Unifieds and all of that. And ultimately, I chose Pace University, which just happened to be in New York. So that it just kind of worked out. I was like, well, it's in New York. Location wasn't really on my mind, but then once I got in, I was like, I love pace. And yeah, maybe it would be fun to be right in New York. Why not? So I kind of just ripped the Band-Aid off and I went there my freshman year. And I think for me, specifically, it worked out that I was within the bubble of school.
Hmm.
Because to be quite honest, I don't know how I would have done if I would have moved like after college, like if I went to college somewhere else and then moved. I'm not
Um,
sure. Just with my personality, I think I sort of needed that bubble, to feel safe. And because I was in that bubble, it felt like New York, but not really. I was living in a dorm
yeah.
and I wasn't really going anywhere. I was never like a huge partier. I never went to nightclubs. I pretty much stayed at Pace downtown in the Fi-Di. Um, so that was my first initial experience of moving there,
What,
2013.
yeah. What did you study?
I studied musical theater
Okay.
and I technically had a dance minor as well, but I never finished college. So I actually left right after my junior year, which was right after I did Cassie.
Okay.
So that's why all of those the chorus line feelings have been
Ah, yeah,
resurfaced
like it's all tied
lately.
into such a pinnacle time in your life. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
And
Yep.
while you were there before you left, like I know you said you didn't really party and things like that. Did you explore the city much? Like, did you do any auditions or?
So, it was kind of advised for us to not do any auditions our freshman, kind of sophomore year. So I didn't really do too much. I maybe did a
Yeah.
few things, and honestly, at this point, it's all a blur.
Okay, that's
But
fair.
yeah, I would say I didn't really focus on auditioning. I was focused on my training, and
Yeah.
occasionally I did take class at Broadway Dance Center and steps. I wish
Hmm.
I would have actually done that more, to be honest.
Yeah.
But um it was hard to not get distracted living in the city.
Hmm.
Um, so that was the main goal I had in mind walking into it. It's a big city.
Yeah,
It's
it's like I've been studying it because I've been trying to like understand the geographics and everything. And it's like the way I've had other Australians explain it to me who have been there, it's like it's cities inside cities inside cities. Like there's different areas that are like act as their own city, but it's all New
yes.
York. So I'm like, just the sheer scale of it is huge, apparently. So I've been trying to understand that in my own mind, having never been there. So where's Pace University? Where's that located?
So I said FIDI earlier. I meant financial district.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was
There's
our slang, FIDI.
tie-dye. All right,
Earlier.
cool. There's a Aussie, actually he's a New Zealander Kiwi friend of mine, a musical theatre friend, but he works in finance, I believe. He's
Oh, sure.
just
Yep.
moved
Wall
over
Street.
there. Yeah.
Yep.
He's literally, and I've watched his journey and I was messaging him being like, "Oh my God, that'll be me one day and we'll catch up when I'm there." So yeah, he's living kind of my dream at the moment. But yeah, like the financial district, yeah, he panned across a few different shots and I was like trying to study them. We were talking about New York and how you had that experience through the university and then you moved back home. You said you didn't finish your like degree. So feel free to sort of like share that part of the journey.
Yeah, so shortly after, so my junior year, that year I did Cassie. I actually was signed to a manager slash agent after that production. And it was more of a feeling of I was just ready. I felt ready to start auditioning. I was questioning, why do I have to take this algebra class?
Oh,
I
ridiculous.
I think I have a little bit of like ADHD, so I was like, I don't want to sit in a desk anymore. I want to learn from experience. I want to get out. I felt trapped within the university, and looking back on that, I don't, it's hard to say I woulda, shoulda, coulda. Theoretically, I would have just stuck it out because I literally had one more year. I would have put on my big girl panties and said, Emily, do it. But I'm stubborn, and I'm a free bird, so that wasn't my path. And I left. Um, and I think the problem was I left without a solid plan.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Um, It was a little bit on intuition slash impulse, sort of a
Hmm.
combination of the two,
Yeah.
whereas I wish it would have been more logic based, you know? Um, but again, it's a blur for me because it was so long ago. Um, but since then, I was still in New York at the time. So my move back home was very recent, just last year, 2024.
All right.
Yeah, I kind of like I came back to Minneapolis during the pandemic. There was one year I was back like 2018, 2017, a little bit. But I had mostly been in New York. And like I said, even though I was signed with a manager and an agent, I think because I was so young, I didn't really even know what that meant. And I didn't understand that I still had to advocate for myself as an actor. They weren't just gonna magically, you know, get me where I
Yeah.
want to be. So that was the biggest lesson within itself.
We can
And also,
unpack that too, because, like,
yeah,
I've
yeah.
had my own experiences around the idea of being with agents and then having other friends or colleagues you speak to about how they deal with agents in general. Like, and also that's something I want to mention is just the lack of guidance that we have as performers, and we're also young, growing up, learning in the business as you go. But yeah, the advocacy thing, like the minute you said didn't know how to advocate for yourself, like I try to say to people like, we're all just thinking about ourselves and, people in business are the same. They've got a long list of things they need to tick off on their to-do list that day, and you're probably right at the bottom. So that's why I say to people, don't be afraid to keep doing follow-up emails, and you feel like you'll be nagging them, but really you're just like making sure that you're being seen, and you're not nagging them, you're just like bringing their attention towards you.
Absolutely. And that was hard for me to do as a 21, 22-year-old. And
Oh, 100%. Like when you're that young, no, like, yeah, like,
Ugh. I barely knew who I was at that time either. I didn't know the artist I was. And so I think that just made it even harder. I was a bit lost, honestly. And like I said, I had no plan. And that from that time that I left between now, a chorus line, the anniversary of it has been allowing me to reflect on that time. And in many ways, I do very much feel like I am living, breathing Cassie because um, it's hard for me to put this into words. I feel like in so many ways it's just full circle. I left Pace with Cassie and now this anniversary is coming up, and it sort of the theme of the show within itself of like rejection in the business, getting a job, not getting a job, the choices that you make, the things that you thought you were going to do that haven't happened yet, or maybe they're just happening in a different way that you never expected. Those sort of themes, like can't, or what are the lyrics of what I did for love?
yeah. Like I gotta share with
Won't
you.
forget, can't regret what I did for love.
Yeah, one
Um,
of my good friends recently, she got her hands on the footage of the show we all did together. And she posted it on Instagram. And I kid you not, like I replayed it I just let it replay, you know how it loops on Instagram, and just looking back at it all too, like I was crying and I was messaging her like, dude, I'm crying. And she was like, I just got off the phone from Jess and she's been crying too. So, because I think I was 15, I kind of like slid through the side door of that show. I got in somehow, and everyone in that show was like in their 20s. So
yeah,
I looked up to them like big adults, living in the big wide world. And there was me, mum and dad were still driving me, like yeah, driving me to rehearsals and stuff. So it was a strange experience. It's a show about spring awakenings too, like going through puberty, and they reflect back on those times. And I was
yeah,
living it, so that was wild for me as a young, mid-teen, uh, hearing all the songs and the stories through the show while being smack bang in the middle of it was really, really strange. Um, but yeah, what I did for love, like I remember I would sing that in the wings. So I stuck it out that whole show. I was in the first number with the audition, and then I talked the choreographer into adding me in as a extra in the one number. I was
Oh
so
yeah.
grateful that he let me do that. So I was just an extra random that people were like, "Who's that girl?" Like, but yeah, just to come back to what you were saying, just the reflection and bringing it back to that time in your life, like, and Cassie being such a pinnacle role. I know you said earlier too, like being such a young person, you were 21, 22, and Cassie is like in her 30s. Is that right?
Yeah, she's 32.
Yeah, so she's gone and lived her life, and I know that her monologue is along the lines of she's done a lot of shows and starred in a lot of things. Like she is a star, and then she's coming back because she's desperate for employment, and she's just like, just give me a job. So,
Yeah, she's in many ways although I was 21, I couldn't relate to that, going to LA and actually having a career in the business, but I could relate to the humanity and the spirituality of let me, I get emotional when I say this, but like let me be seen, let me be accepted. Um, Let me reclaim my life. And those are the emotions that anyone can tap into, no matter what age you are. And I think that moment in my life, even though before I made the decision to leave Pace, I think my spirit knew. Your soul knows sometimes before your mind knows. And that is what I could connect to, that feeling. So, yeah, and even what you had touched on about the show being about relationships and not only your relationship with other people, Cassie and Zach, that's a whole situation, a
yeah.
whole romance situation, but your relationship with yourself as well. Um, and that is something that even now I can connect to on a deeper level. So the show
Yeah.
will it's kind of like one of those shows, once you do it, you'll continue to do it many, many times. And I'm kind of honestly waiting for my Sheila days to be. I'm
It's so
waiting for
funny.
my
We all
Sheila days.
I feel like most
I
females
can't
have
wait.
a connection to her in the show. Like she's brilliant. And my good friend Sarah Louise, she played that role. She was the one that posted all the footage up. And then Jess played it's Diana, is that right? In the show.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
sings What I Did for
Oh,
Love. So
it's
those
great.
two women were so beautiful during that period of time for me. They took me under their wing and they were just Sarah Louise helped me out with vocals and she told me because I I'd done a lot of intense dance training all the way through, so I came in as like the teeny bopper dancer. But she basically was like I was a powerhouse and I made her work harder. So
Mhm.
and then the kick line, her and I were in the kick line. We were right next to each other. Um, and I rewatched it, like I said, 1,000 times. And like we're trying to get our legs up to shoulder height when, um, yeah, half the line I think was just above 90. And then her and I were like, keep kicking. Like, um,
Right at the end too. I love how he did that.
yeah. And
Save the kick line for the end. Just keep kicking till the
yeah.
curtain closes.
Yeah, the stamina, right?
Yeah.
It's, yeah, right at the end of the show when we're all doing the kick line, the gold hats. Um, but yeah, the relationship with yourself, like just coming back to that song, What I Did for Love, like I got introduced to a chorus line when I was 15. Like singing that song. I remember one day we had a rehearsal and our the choreographer was also our director for that show and he ran us through almost like a mindfulness exercise that got the entire cast into that state of mind of like, what if you couldn't dance ever again tomorrow? And we
Yeah.
all had, it's so heavy, and like we all had to really dig deep, and then we sang the song. And the energy in the room was just electric and on another level because it is the sad thing about life is it's temporary. If we're lucky, we get to age and become old men and women, because I like to say it's a privilege because we made
Yeah,
it. Um,
definitely.
we all have a lot of fears around aging, but I will forever be grateful for every day that I can like move my body and move to music and like I think about that song every now and then when I'm not dancing, because there are days that I say to myself, like, Laura, you're not doing enough. Like, you could be doing more. You could be dancing more. Why don't you go and do that dance class? Or why don't you choreograph something at home? Or, I'm just sort of living like a pedestrian human
Yeah.
when we have these gifts. And so yeah, I never want to take it for granted, but I definitely know that I do. So I'm trying to always remind myself that, if you have talents and gifts, and this is saying to anyone out there listening to this, like, do your best to kind of clear your pathway of what is holding you back so you can live through your gifts and hopefully connect to your gifts, and that it's a joyful experience, or it doesn't always have to be joyful. It can just also make you feel like that you connect with your heart. Like I've personally been listening to a lot of like heavy rock music lately. Like some of it is metal, like Evanescence, like that's bringing different like teen energy back. But without going too far into too much detail, but I'm doing some shadow work too, but it's more like an uncovering of some things that I've pushed down when I was like a teenager. And now I'm letting them resurface in my 30s on purpose though, because for me it's about my authenticity. And so, yeah, my taste in music has shifted, like my clothes have shifted a little bit. And to be honest, like there's sort of a dark energy to it, but it's not like the way I can explain it is dancing with my shadow. It's like I'm making friends with it, and it's not a shameful, guilty thing. It's an embodiment. And so it's really fascinating how things happen. I don't know
Listen
how did we
to,
get here?
you should listen to Bob Fosse, Me and My Shadow.
Ah, yes, I love
One.
Bob Fosse. So yeah.
No, it's important as an artist to do that work, and I've been doing that as well. Kind of like we talked about in the last podcast episode. There was something that I had actually said that I listened back and I was like, oh, I actually didn't mean it that way, and I don't agree with what I just said. But it
Do you
was
want
I
to
said
paraphrase
something.
it now? Because you
Yes, I want
can.
to clarify the moment now. I had said something about how creativity is selfish in a way, like the things that I have been doing, to post, to put out into the world from my own selfish need to, selfish in quotes, to get the energy out of my body, right? The emotions out of my body. But I was
Yeah.
reflecting, and I think it's anything but selfish because when you share your art and you share your feelings, essentially, it helps other people be seen because maybe they're experiencing the same feelings that you're experiencing. So in a way, it's opposite of selfish. It's very brave. It's very vulnerable. So I would like to reclaim myself in that moment.
Hey, that's totally fine. Like,
Yeah.
I've had my own ups and downs with the idea of what selfish is being an artist. Because I
Yeah.
know that a lot of performers from the outside looking in, depending on who's perceiving you, because we're all different, we
Right.
all perceive differently. Um, but yeah, I had a really great friendship many years ago, and looking back now, I could see she was in a dark place herself where she was in her life. And she projected a lot of that onto me. And like I considered that she was a best friend at the time. Um, we even lived together at one point. And so, yeah, I remember one day she said to me something really hurtful. And it was just along the lines of like, you know, performing as selfish and kind of like having a dig at me. Um, and that really affected me. And that was actually during the same year I took myself to LA and did some classes and came back. And um, it sent me on this like deeper dive. Um, yeah, it's emotional for me to think about because I feel like I lost a friend over it. Not that specific topic, but it was just that time of my life. Her and I went our separate ways, and but it really did spiral me into like a that shadow time of my life and self-reflecting and journaling a lot. And then I'm now out the other side of that, but it's something I still grapple with every now and then. But because I'm such a spiritual, energetic person, I know I am my best self when I'm on that stage. I know I am my brightest, most unapologetic expression of me. And so that can only help serve the audience to feel it's an energetic exchange. And so in the past, I've done Reiki, and that's also an energetic exchange. So I feel like if you're vibrating at a high frequency of something that you love to do, doesn't matter what it is or how people perceive you, like you will be emitting that frequency out, and that can only help the people around you. Like anyone who comes into contact with that energy, even if what you're posting online, um, as long as you're intentional and you have good intentions, like it's not hurting anybody. So, go be your best self. It's not being selfish. Like people people get entertainment from what you do, and something you'll be able to relate to this probably from mentors or people that have said similar things, but like when you're up on stage and you're loving what you're doing, people love to watch you. People love to watch people do what they love, and it affects people. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like, could you imagine saying being a doctor is selfish or being a lawyer is selfish or, a veterinarian is selfish? It's like acting is just as much of a profession as that is. It's like, think of how many movies were made that allowed other people to be seen and felt a connection or music is huge for me. Music is my life. I can't imagine my life without it, and music is something that makes me feel less alone in this world, and music is art. you
Yes.
know it's like
Yeah.
no wonder they want to defund the arts. That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, like, art has always been a truth teller. And,
Yes.
if certain powers out there want to control truth telling, they will control it in ways of cutting funding. And, like, you know, artists are rebels. We're the ones that hold the mirror up to society. And again, I've been having these conversations with friends outside of our conversation just recently about the whole truth telling thing and the mirror stuff. And, we're so important in society. We're self-aware, but it helps to cut through a lot of the BS that's out there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, people have so many subscription services these days, and um, the theatre community is smaller, but everyone has entertainment on their phone. Like it's everywhere. So the fact that we're still not being as valued as I wish we were, and that it's self-indulgent or selfish, like it's kind of like you're all watching it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Entertainment is the number one moneymaker, you know? It really is, if you really think about it. Movies, TV shows, concerts, Broadway, everything. I mean,
Yeah.
even if you think of corporations, like, I don't know, like your grocery store or Walmart or Target, like there's creativity that goes into that. Marketing is creativity,
Marketing.
design is
Yeah.
creativity. Coming up,
Commercials.
coming up with an idea,
Yeah.
general, no matter what it's for, that's creativity. That's innovation. Our world centers on creativity. And, I'm a spiritual person like you as well. I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. And I think God is the ultimate creator and he created us.
Hmm.
Therefore, everybody has something creative inside of them. And I think the people that like to judge creative people know that because
Hmm.
we're human and
Hmm.
it's in our DNA to be creative. And sometimes those people, perhaps subconsciously, even maybe they're not even aware of it, but they wish that they would have done something that is creative and they never did or they never could. You never know someone's story. But being creative is brave as I'm not going to swear on here, but
Oh, you
heck.
can. You can
Brave
swear
as
on here. You
heck.
can swear on here. I swear on here all the time.
Brave. It's brave as fuck. There you go.
It's brave as fuck. It is brave as fuck. Like
My
you
inner Midwestern, I'm like, oh, I cannot swear on the podcast.
and you say you're a rebel. No.
Oh my God. Well, living here, it's like, again, I'm picking up the energies of my environment. So,
Yeah, no, I understand. Like whenever I go back home, I also change. So,
yes, I
yeah,
like this version of me, though. I will say I feel so much more grounded. No disregard to New York, but yeah, I
that's
feel
fair.
more mentally sane here.
That's all. It's all the fresh air you've been getting.
That's the hydrogen.
Just today, I was actually in the Fitzroy area in Melbourne. Again, it's that creative spot, and yeah, they were filming it looked like a Australia Post commercial they were filming because there was this massive logo on this huge window, and they had a little bit of a tiny film crew just there. And one guy he had like his satchel bag and a parcel, and he kept walking down the street like over and over and over again. They were like capturing him. And someone I was with pointed out, they're like, oh, I think they're shooting a commercial. And I was like so interested. And that's the thing too, like when you're with different people, no matter where you are, if you see something out on the street, like, oh, there's a film set over there, like everyone is interested. Like they're at least going, "Oh, I wonder what they're shooting." And like it has this exact tone that I just said, like, "Oh, I wonder what it is." Like, "Oh." It's
Yeah.
like, "Oh." So yeah, like everyone's interested in it to some point. It's all about expressing yourself. It all comes back to ex self-expression, which is everything that I'm about, even if it's like fashion or hairstyle or color, makeup, whatever you want to do. Um, yeah, just having fun with it too. And like, there's always the serious acting side and the deeper monologues and things like that. But there's also like the comedy and the cabaret and the fun, and there's so many different energies across the board. Yeah.
Yes. And allowing yourself to be perceived, I think, is huge. If you really think about that, uh, there's a lot of people that aren't willing to do that. But I think for artists, it's just we're wired differently in the sense of like we have to create. We
It's
have to
like
do it.
oxygen. We
Yeah,
have to. It's intrinsic.
yeah. It really is. And I love that quote about, again, going back to Brene Brown, which he says about the man in the arena. Or it's not a quote by her, it's
I love
Teddy
that quote
Roosevelt.
though.
Yes, and it's like it's not the critic who counts, it's the person in the arena on the stage who's actually bearing their soul in front of thousands of people. It's not easy, and the average person can't do that. And so, of course, people project onto artists all of the time, and it's, you know, like even the most famous people, like think Taylor Swift, Chappell Roan. They have
Mm,
so many haters, so many critics, so many people
yeah,
online saying mean things about them. And unfortunately, the bigger you get, the more of that
the
backlash is
criticism.
going to
Yeah,
come. And
yeah,
so as an artist, you have to be willing to energetically hold space for that. You have to be so secure within yourself and within your art and your work that you keep going regardless of what they say, because if you are worried about that, you will crash and burn. And it's hard.
yeah. Like, going back to that quote, I think it was like, you wouldn't take criticism from someone who's not in the arena
Yeah.
doing it themselves. Like, yeah, that's been a huge boundary over the years I've had to learn is like really choose your audience when you have to go to someone to sort of vent or talk about something creative. You know, you got to be strategic around what kind of support that you need and knowing where to get it from in healthy ways. That's a huge thing. And like, yeah, like talking about the whole criticism thing, um, it's ironic that as artists or performers, we all still struggle and have our own personal struggle with the fear of being seen. So I'd love to like talk about that because I'm still coming into my authenticity more and more. And I need to be okay with being perceived like more masculine because I at the moment I'm becoming more acquainted and more accepting of my masculine qualities and not shaming them or denying them. So that's sort of a large chapter of what I'm working through at the moment. Um, and so allowing myself to be perceived as boyish or too strong or domineering, and that's not what's actually happening. It's just what people see. But if you have a conversation with me, I'm going to be like really open book, really friendly. All I want to see is people follow their dreams. But yeah, depending on how you present, we all make those sorts of judgments, but kind of bringing that to the stage. So, like, I want to put more of a masculine quality onto the stage through cabaret sense. So, I do weightlifting. I love the art of body sculpting, bodybuilding kind of thing. So, I'd love to be able to combine some of that into my physique and then my fire performing, and I'm currently chatting with a friend. We're gonna get into some creation mode at the moment, which is really exciting. But yeah, again, that's me making friends with my masculine side, but also I'm a rebel in that sense. I want to break that zeitgeist of being feminine and girly isn't the only version of what is sexy. Like a woman can be in her masculine energy, and that can also be sexy. So, um, kind of manipulating that zeitgeist a bit to be like, hey, here's a different version. Um, but yeah, like, I mean, you can be more vulnerable in that sense too, like musical theater, monologues, acting, like allowing yourself to be raw and open. Like, can you speak to the whole being seen thing? Do you have anything you're sort of working through?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge topic. I think it's really about letting go of what other people think. That is the huge part, and being so self-assured in your message. And honestly, I'm thinking of Madonna. I
Oh,
don't know
true.
why. I mean, I do know why. She's Madonna. But we're talking about being seen before it's popular. She was such a rebel and a trailblazer, and she was so self-assured within herself. And she was taboo, especially at the time when she was first
Taboo.
starting, and everybody was like, "Who is this? What is she doing?" She's never gonna, Lady Gaga as
I
well.
was about to say Lady Gaga, yeah.
And I think both of them are similar in the sense that they knew who the fuck they are. They knew who the fuck they are. And, they were like, this is me, and I don't care what you say or what you say. And that energy, I think, is sexy within itself. That's powerful within itself. And I think it's like you just have to dare to be different, even when it feels like the whole world is against you. And you have to be consistent in that energy. And that's why going back to mental health and how that is so important to allowing yourself to be seen. Like those two topics are interwoven because you have to be so strong up here.
Yeah.
And it's hard to when people within the performing arts don't see you and they criticize you when they're doing the same thing as you. I would argue that's even harder
Oh man.
than just random strangers judging you, or the
Yeah.
people who, pretend to support you, but they really don't. And
Yeah.
you just have to get past all of that, all of those mental blockages, all of those voices that aren't yours, and show up consistently.
Yeah, and like finding that really solid foundation inside of you of why you're showing up and like having you got to have your own back. Like just to add to the other stars that are out there that have really owned their authenticity. Someone else I'm recently obsessed with because I like to look away from the dance industry to see what else is out there and who's doing unique things. But um, Rhea Ripley is an Australian WWE wrestler who is like risen to a lot of popularity because it's also now on Netflix and
Yeah.
it's drawn a lot of attention. But she joined WWE when she was 20 and she did the blonde, long hair generic thing, but she went through her own journey of realizing that wasn't really her authenticity. And then she came back to a particular match and she was like a goth chick and she was grunge and she had studs and like she looked like, fishnets and dark lipstick and like it just, yeah, I absolutely love the fact that she decided to own it. And it's like she looks amazing. Obviously, when we're authentic, it shines through from the inside out. Like you can feel her energy through the screen. And she's fully tattooed and everything. Like, of course, she looks really cool and she's like so fit. But there's just something really like, I can't almost explain it, but there's some
Yeah.
authenticity is such a high vibration that
Yeah.
it draws people to you. You become so magnetic and it's attractive. Like, I'm just like, I'm gonna take a leaf out of her book and be authentic. Like, she even said in some interviews, she decided to, she goes, I smiled way too much. She was like, I was smiling way too much. And she's like, even when she came back, she's like, I decided to drop my voice because she was people pleasing. And so often women, we go into a high register because it sounds more pretty or approachable, things like that. So yeah, just another example out there. Rhea Ripley, go binge all of her interviews on YouTube. Like um just something to admire if
Yeah.
people are needing more examples of becoming their true self. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Cool.
I think, do you have any final words? And then we'll like close it out.
Oh, no, thanks for having me again. And these conversations are so refreshing. I love talking about real stuff that is important to artists just owning who they are and finding their voice because art is so important.
Yeah, and also like just to quickly add on here too, hopefully we don't run out of time, but um as we grow and evolve, our art also grows and evolves. So
Yeah.
um I'll talk about that more on other episodes, I feel. Because yeah, the way that we move through life, like how we channel our art, it's gonna shift and evolve as well. So let it happen. Try to like let go of the steering wheel a bit to everyone out there and yeah, keep creating and keep flowing with that vibe. So
Yes,
awesome.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thanks so much for listening to this awesome episode with myself and Emily Nies. She is Emily Nies Creates on Instagram and on TikTok. And I'll put all the information in the description as well, where you can follow along all social medias across all platforms. And this is Laura Green from Green Mirror Studios podcast signing out, and feel free to go through the catalog of all the other episodes that are there. Also available on Spotify and other podcast streaming services. So go check it out.